Mira stood on that old railway bridge watching the dark water flow beneath her feet. The evening traffic behind her created a constant noise, but she barely heard it anymore. Everything felt distant, like she was watching her own life from somewhere far away. She was only 24 but felt like she had lived through decades of pain in just a few months. Her hands gripped the cold metal railing as tears rolled down her cheeks. 3 months ago, she had a good job at a marketing company. She worked hard, staying late most nights, trying to prove herself. But then everything fell apart. A senior colleague made a huge mistake on an important project, and somehow all the blame landed on her shoulders. The company lost money, and they needed someone to point fingers at. She tried to explain what really happened, but nobody listened. Within 2 weeks, she was out of a job with a bad reference that made finding new work almost impossible. That same week, Vikram told her he was leaving. They had been together for 3 years and engaged for 6 months. She thought he was her future, her safe place. But when she lost her job and needed him most, he said he could not handle the stress. He said she had changed, that she was too negative now. 2 days later, she saw him on social media with another girl, someone from his office. It felt like her chest had been ripped open. The worst part was going home to face her father. He had been so proud when she got that marketing job. He told all his friends and relatives about his daughter working at a big company in the city. When she lost everything, he looked at her with such disappointment. He did not shout or yell. He just stopped talking to her properly. That silence hurt more than any words could. Her mother tried to comfort her, but even she seemed tired of Mira's sadness. So here she was on this bridge, feeling like there was no way forward. Every door seemed closed. Every path seemed blocked. She leaned forward slightly, looking at the water, and wondering if anyone would even miss her. Maybe everyone would be relieved. Maybe she was just a burden now. Then she heard a voice behind her. It was calm, not panicked or loud. Just steady and warm. The voice said the view was better from the other side, you know. She turned around, surprised that someone was talking to her. A young man stood there, maybe 27 or 28 years old. He wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans and held 2 paper cups of chai in his hands. What surprised her most was his face. He did not look shocked or scared. He did not have that look people get when they see someone in trouble, that mix of pity and discomfort. He just looked present, like he was exactly where he meant to be. Mira took a step back instinctively, but her foot slipped on the wet metal railing. Her heart jumped into her throat as she felt herself losing balance. In that split second, his hand shot out and caught her wrist. But he did not grab hard or yank her roughly. His grip was soft but steady. Firm enough to keep her safe, but gentle enough to not hurt. It was such a simple touch, but somehow it spoke to her. It said, "I am here, and you are not alone." He helped her step down carefully back onto the safe part of the bridge. Her legs felt shaky and her heart was pounding. He smiled softly and said his name was Arjun. Then, he held out one of the chai cups toward her. "I think you need this more than I do," he said quietly. The cup was still warm against her cold fingers, and somehow that small warmth felt like the first good thing she had felt in weeks. They stood there for a moment, neither speaking. The traffic continued behind them and the world kept moving, but in that small space on the bridge, everything felt still. Arjun did not ask her what she was doing or why she looked so broken. He did not try to fix her or give her advice. He just stood there, sipping his chai and being present. After a few minutes, he asked if she wanted company. She thought about saying no, about walking away and pretending this never happened. But something in his kind eyes made her nod yes, instead. They walked together away from the bridge toward the busy street. Mira did not know why she was following this stranger, but somehow, it felt right. They found a small coffee shop on the corner, one of those old places with plastic chairs and Bollywood songs playing softly in the background. They sat down and Arjun ordered samosas without asking if she wanted any. When they arrived, hot and crispy, he pushed the plate toward her. "You should eat something," he said simply. Mira picked at the food, not really tasting it but going through the motions. Arjun talked casually about small things. He mentioned he was a photographer, working freelance, capturing everyday moments around the city. He talked about a funny incident that happened while shooting a wedding last week. His voice was easy to listen to, and slowly, Mira felt her breathing return to normal. The tightness in her chest loosened just a little bit. When they finished eating, Arjun did not ask for her number or make any demands. He just said he came to that coffee shop most evenings around 6 if she ever wanted chai and company again. Then he paid the bill before she could protest and walked her to the main road to catch an auto. As she rode home, Mira clutched the empty chai cup in her hands and wondered who this stranger really was and why he had appeared exactly when she needed someone most. The next evening, Mira found herself walking toward that same coffee shop. She told herself she was just passing by, but deep down she knew the truth. At exactly 6 in the evening, she spotted Arjun sitting at the same plastic table with his camera bag beside him. When he saw her, his whole face lit up with a genuine smile. He waved her over like they were old friends and ordered chai before she even sat down. This became their routine. Every evening, they would meet at that little coffee shop and talk. At first, Mira barely said anything. She would listen while Arjun told stories about his photography work. He showed her pictures on his camera of street vendors and children playing and old buildings covered in colorful graffiti. He had a way of seeing beauty in ordinary things that most people walked past without noticing. Slowly, over days and then weeks, Mira started opening up. She told him about losing her job, how her colleague Rajesh had made a huge error in the client presentation but blamed her when the bosses got angry. She explained how she tried to defend herself but nobody believed her version. The company needed a scapegoat, and she was the easiest target, being younger and having less experience. Arjun listened carefully, never interrupting, just nodding and letting her speak. She told him about Vikram too, how they met in college and dated through her final years, how he proposed on her birthday with a ring his grandmother had given him, how she thought they would build a life together. But when everything collapsed, Vikram could not handle seeing her struggle. He said she cried too much, that she was always sad now. He said he needed someone positive in his life. Within days of leaving her, he started posting pictures with Priya, a girl from his accounts department. They looked so happy together in every photo, and each picture felt like a knife in Mira's heart. The hardest part, she admitted, was her father. He had worked so hard to give her a good education. He sacrificed things for himself so she could go to a decent college. When she got that marketing job, he was so proud. He called his younger brother in the village and bragged about his daughter working in a big city firm. Now when he looked at her, she could see only disappointment. He did not understand how she could let everything fall apart. He thought if she had just worked harder or been smarter, she could have kept her job and her relationship. That silent judgment hurt more than anything. Arjun listened to all of this without offering quick solutions or empty comfort. Instead, one evening, he showed her a particular set of photographs. They were images of old abandoned buildings, slowly being reclaimed by nature. Vines grew through broken windows, flowers bloomed in cracks in concrete walls. Trees pushed through collapsed roofs, reaching toward the sky. Beautiful things survive the worst conditions, he said quietly. These buildings were forgotten, destroyed even, but life found a way through them anyway. You will too, Mira. Right now, you are in the broken stage, but something new is already growing inside those cracks. You just cannot see it yet. Then Arjun shared something he had never told her before. 3 years ago, his younger sister Naina took her own life. She was only 19, studying engineering and struggling with depression. Arjun had been busy with his career back then, traveling for photography assignments and not paying enough attention. He missed the signs. He did not notice how quiet she had become, how she stopped sharing things with the family. One day he got a call from his mother and rushed home, but it was too late. For a long time, Arjun blamed himself. He stopped taking photos completely because everything reminded him of what he had lost. But eventually, he realized that Naina would not want him to stop living. She loved his photographs, always said they made people happy. So he picked up his camera again, but this time with a different purpose. Now he paid attention. He noticed when people seemed lost or broken. He looked for small signs that someone might need help or just company. That is why I was on that bridge that day, Arjun said, meeting her eyes. I walk there sometimes in the evening watching, not to interfere with people's lives, but to be there, in case someone needs a reminder that they are not alone. When I saw you, I just knew. I could not walk away. Mira felt tears forming, but this time they were different. Not tears of hopelessness, but tears of being truly seen and understood. She reached across the table and squeezed Arjun's hand. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me when I could not see myself. From that day, their friendship deepened. Arjun started helping her look for freelance writing work. He knew people in the creative industry, and he connected her with a few editors who needed content writers. The pay was not much at first, but it was something. More importantly, it gave Mira a reason to wake up in the morning. She started writing again, pouring her emotions into words describing travel destinations and food experiences and human interest stories. 2 months after they first met, Mira landed her first real assignment. A small travel magazine wanted a piece about hidden gems in the city, places tourists never saw but locals loved. She was excited but also nervous. What if she failed again? What if her writing was not good enough? Arjun saw the worry on her face and suggested they work on it together. He would take photographs and she would write the story. They would explore the city properly, finding those forgotten corners that deserved attention. They spent the next 2 weeks wandering through narrow lanes and old neighborhoods. Arjun taught her to slow down and really observe. He pointed out details she would have missed, the way morning light fell on ancient stone walls, or how a street vendor arranged his colorful vegetables in perfect patterns. Mira filled her notebook with descriptions and observations, learning to see her city through fresh eyes. They visited a tiny bookshop run by an 80-year-old man who had been there for 50 years. They found a rooftop garden where an elderly couple grew herbs and shared them freely with neighbors. They discovered a small temple where a group of women met every evening to sing devotional songs, their voices creating the most beautiful harmonies. Working together felt natural and easy. Arjun would capture an image, and Mira would find the words to match it. He showed her his photographs, and she would tell him the story she saw in them. Sometimes she would describe a moment, and he would know exactly what angle to shoot from. They complemented each other perfectly, without even trying. The article turned out better than Mira had hoped. The magazine editor loved it and asked for more pieces. She wanted Mira to become a regular contributor, writing about culture and community stories. For the first time in months, Mira felt proud of herself. She had created something good. Something real. When the magazine issue came out with her name printed at the bottom of the article, she stared at it for a long time, hardly believing it was true. Arjun bought a copy and insisted they celebrate. He showed up at the coffee shop with a box of her favorite sweets, gulab jamun, from the shop near her house. He had remembered from a conversation weeks ago when she mentioned missing them. They walked to the bridge where they first met, and stood there eating sweets and watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "This is where it started," Arjun said, smiling. "Remember that scared girl who stood here thinking everything was over? Look at her now. Published writer creating beautiful work." Mira shook her head. "I did not do it alone. You were there, every step pushing me forward, believing in me when I could not believe in myself." Arjun turned to face her, his expression serious. "I just held on until you found your footing, Mira. The strength was always yours. I just reminded you it existed." Something shifted in that moment. Standing on that bridge with the evening breeze in her hair and Arjun beside her, Mira felt something warm spreading through her chest. It was not just gratitude, though; she felt plenty of that. It was something deeper, something she had been trying to ignore for weeks now. When had his smile started making her heart beat faster? When had his presence become the best part of her day? When had she started noticing the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, or how his voice softened when he said her name? She glanced at him and found him already looking at her. Their eyes met and held, and for a second neither of them looked away. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken feelings and possibilities. Then Arjun cleared his throat and looked back at the sunset, his cheeks slightly pink. "We should get you home," he said quietly. "It is getting late." They walked back through the evening streets, not talking much, but somehow the silence felt full rather than empty. When they reached her building, Arjun said goodnight, the same way he always did, but Mira could not help noticing. His hand lingered a moment longer than necessary when they said goodbye. Over the next few months, their lives continued to weave together. Mira took on more writing projects, slowly building a portfolio and a reputation. Arjun's photography work picked up too, and he started getting commissioned for bigger assignments. But no matter how busy they got, they always found time for evening chai at their coffee shop. It became their anchor point, the one constant in changing lives. They celebrated each other's wins. When Arjun's photo series got featured in a gallery, Mira was the first person he told. When Mira finally got a book deal to write about resilient people who rebuilt their lives after loss, Arjun threw his arms around her and spun her in a circle right there on the street, not caring who saw. They also supported each other through hard days. When Arjun struggled with anniversary dates related to his sister, Mira would sit with him, letting him talk or cry or just be silent. When Mira's father still refused to really talk to her, Arjun reminded her that healing family relationships took time and she could not force it. But beneath the friendship, something else was growing. They both felt it, but neither knew how to name it or what to do about it. Mira would catch herself staring at Arjun when he was focused on editing photos. Arjun would find excuses to touch her hand or brush hair away from her face. When they said goodnight, there was always that moment of hesitation, like both of them wanted to say something more but could not find the courage. Their friends started noticing too. "When are you two going to admit you are in love?" one of Arjun's photographer friends asked him directly one day. Arjun had stammered and denied it, but his friend just laughed. "Everyone can see it, except maybe you two." 6 months after that first meeting on the bridge, everything finally came to a head. Mira and Arjun were working together on a special project, an exhibition combining his photographs with her written pieces. The theme was resilience, showing how people and places could survive terrible things and still find beauty on the other side. They had been working on it for weeks, and tonight they were at Arjun's small studio apartment doing final edits. Outside, the monsoon rain pounded against the windows, creating a drumming sound that filled the space. Inside, Arjun's apartment was cozy with warm yellow lights, and his photographs covering every wall. They sat on the floor, surrounded by papers and laptops, working in comfortable silence. Mira was reading her pieces aloud to check how they sounded, and Arjun was listening while making notes. She reached the final piece, the one she had written about her own story. It was the most personal thing she had ever written, describing that day on the bridge and everything that had happened since. Her voice was steady at first, but as she read, the words started catching in her throat. "And then a stranger held my wrist softly and I realized I was not alone in my darkness," she read, but she could not continue. The emotions overwhelmed her all at once, the gratitude, the confusion, the feelings she had been trying to push down for months. She put the paper down, her hands shaking slightly. Arjun immediately put aside his camera and moved closer. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Mira nodded, but tears were already forming in her eyes. She felt frustrated with herself for crying again, but could not seem to stop. Arjun reached over and carefully took the notebook from her hands, setting it aside. Then he just sat there, giving her space to feel whatever she needed to feel. Mira wiped her eyes, trying to pull herself together. "Sorry," she mumbled. "I thought I was past all this." "You have nothing to be sorry for," Arjun said firmly. "Healing is not a straight line, Mira. Some days are harder than others, and that is completely normal." She looked up at him, and something in his expression made her breath catch. He was looking at her with such tenderness, such care, that it made her heart ache. In that moment she realized she could not keep pretending anymore. The truth was right there between them, and ignoring it was becoming impossible. Arjun seemed to be having the same realization. He took a deep breath, and when he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "Mira, I need to tell you something. I have been trying to find the right time to say this, but I do not think there is a right time. So I am just going to say it now." He paused, gathering his courage. "I cannot keep pretending this is just friendship. Somewhere between that chai on the bridge and all our coffee shop conversations, between holding your wrist to keep you safe and holding your dreams, now I fell in love with you. I do not know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was the first time I heard you laugh properly, after weeks of only seeing you cry. Maybe it was when you stayed up all night helping me edit photos for a deadline, or maybe it was the day you told me about your sister and trusted me with your pain. I do not know. But I love you, Mira, and I cannot pretend I do not anymore." Mira's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. She stared at him, unable to believe what she was hearing. Part of her had hoped for this, but another part had been terrified to even imagine it. What if she was not ready? What if she ruined their friendship? What if she gave her heart away again, and it got broken worse than before? But looking into Arjun's eyes, she saw the truth written there. This was not Vikram who left when things got hard. This was not someone who only loved the happy version of her. Arjun had seen her at her absolute worst, standing on that bridge, ready to give up, and he had chosen to stay. He had walked beside her through the darkest months of her life, never demanding anything in return. He loved her not, despite her brokenness, but including all of it. Mira realized she had been silent too long. Arjun's expression was shifting from hopeful to uncertain. "I am sorry," he started to say. "I should not have brought this up when you are already emotional. Please forget I said anything." But Mira shook her head quickly. "No," she said, her voice stronger now. "Do not take it back." She took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I have been terrified to feel this way because last time I loved someone, it destroyed me when he left. I was so scared that if I admitted I had feelings for you, something would go wrong and I would lose you too. But the truth is, I love you, Arjun. I think I have loved you for a while now. You make me feel safe and seen and valued. When I am with you, I remember who I used to be before everything fell apart, but I also see who I am becoming now. You helped me find myself again." Arjun's face broke into the most beautiful smile she had ever seen. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, but Mira did not move. His hand cupped her cheek gently, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly, and Mira nodded, not trusting her voice anymore. The kiss was gentle and sweet, full of all the feelings they had been holding back for months. When they finally pulled apart, they were both smiling. The rain continued outside and the world kept turning, but inside that small apartment everything felt perfect and right. 1 year later, the art gallery was filled with people admiring the exhibition that Mira and Arjun had created together. Large photographs hung on white walls, each one paired with a written piece telling a story of survival and hope. There were images of earthquake survivors who rebuilt their homes, and flood victims who started businesses, and people who lost loved ones but found purpose in their grief. Every story was real, every photograph captured genuine emotion, and the combination created something powerful and moving. Mira stood near the entrance, watching visitors read her words and study Arjun's photos. Some people had tears in their eyes. Others nodded in recognition, seeing their own struggles reflected in these stories. A woman approached her and said, "Thank you for writing this. My daughter died 2 years ago, and I thought I would never feel happy again. But your words reminded me that I can carry her memory and still choose to live fully." Mira hugged the woman, feeling grateful that their work could touch people in such deep ways. Arjun wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. He whispered in her ear, "I am so proud of you. Look at everything you have built. A year ago you thought your life was over, and now you are here, published author, successful writer, inspiring people with your story." She leaned into him, feeling his warmth and strength. "We built this together," she corrected. "I could not have done any of this without you." Movement near the door caught her attention. Her father walked in, looking uncomfortable in his formal clothes. He had reached out 3 months ago with a hesitant phone call saying he wanted to talk. That first conversation had been awkward and painful, with long silences and careful words. But slowly, over weeks and then months, they started rebuilding their relationship. Her father apologized for not supporting her when she needed him most. He admitted that his disappointment had been more about his own expectations than about her actual worth. He was trying now, and that mattered even though healing took time. He walked through the gallery, looking at each photograph and reading each story. When he reached the final piece, the one about Mira's own journey from that bridge to this moment, his eyes got wet. He turned to look at her across the room and nodded once, a small gesture that meant more than any words could. She nodded back, understanding, passing between them. After the gallery visitors left, Mira and Arjun walked to their favorite coffee shop, the same one where they had spent countless evenings talking and dreaming and becoming friends, and then more than friends. They ordered chai and sat at their usual table. So much had changed, but this place remained constant. Arjun held her hand across the table, tracing patterns on her palm. "Remember when I asked you if the view was better from the other side?" he said, smiling. Mira laughed. "How could I forget? That was the strangest and best thing anyone had ever said to me." She looked at him, really looked at the man who had saved her life, not through grand, dramatic gestures, but through small, consistent acts of kindness and presence. He still had moments when grief over his sister hit him hard. She still had days when doubt and insecurity crept back in. But they faced these struggles together, two imperfect people choosing each other again and again. Later that night, they stood on the small balcony of Arjun's apartment, looking out at the city lights. The same city where Mira had once felt so lost, now felt like home again. Arjun gently took her wrist the same way he had that first day on the bridge, but this time it was not to keep her from falling. He pressed his fingers against her pulse, feeling it beat strong and steady. "You are alive," he said quietly. "You survived and you are creating beautiful things, and you are loved." Everything changed, Mira. And it started with one moment when you chose to accept help, when you chose to stay. Mira smiled and kissed him softly. "Everything changed when you held my wrist and reminded me I was not alone. You did not fix me or save me, but you walked beside me while I figured out how to save myself. That made all the difference." They stood together, wrapped in each other's arms as the night deepened around them. The city hummed with life, below cars honking and people laughing, and music drifting up from somewhere nearby. Mira thought about the girl she had been 1 year ago, so broken and hopeless, standing on that bridge. If she could go back and talk to that girl, she would tell her to hold on. She would say that the pain feels permanent, but it is not. She would promise that beautiful things are coming, that love and purpose and joy are waiting just around the corner. But she could not go back. All she could do was move forward, carrying the lessons she had learned and the love she had found. She looked up at Arjun and saw her own feelings reflected in his eyes, hope and gratitude, and the quiet confidence that whatever came next, they would face it together. The view really was better from this side. Not because life had become perfect or easy, but because she had learned that she was stronger than she knew, and she was not alone. That soft touch on her wrist that rainy evening had been the beginning of everything. It had said, "You matter and stay, and I see you." And she had stayed. She had chosen life and love and hope, even when it was hard. Now, standing on this balcony with the man she loved, and a future full of possibilities stretching before her, Mira understood what resilience really meant. It was not about never falling or never feeling broken. It was about getting back up with help when you needed it, and offering help when others were falling. It was about finding beauty in the cracks, and letting new growth emerge from old wounds. Arjun squeezed her hand gently, and she squeezed back. They did not need words anymore. The touch said everything. "I am here. You are here. We are alive. And that is enough. That is everything."